For being here. I lived on the route of the Dakota Access Pipeline when it was coming through Iowa, about 30 miles northeast of here. And I know you've spoken out against the pipeline. I know you're aware that the Energy Transfer Partners wants to double the capacity of oil flowing through that pipeline from 500,000 barrels a day to over 1 million barrels a day. And so I was wondering what the most recent information you have on that is, and what you can say about how it impacts Iowa and what you can do to help Iowa about that pipeline.
We put out a statement on this. Did you see it?
I did. I saw it a few days ago, and I just didn't know if you would help the people here understand. I think, I don't think everybody's aware of it, and so I think they'd be interested in what you had to say about it.
Yeah. And I couldn't hear what you said. You're talking about, I put two statements out. You're talking about the XL?
The Dakota Access.
Dakota, that's the other one I put out. I think I put it out, and then I added
know Ed
something back
talked
in.
to you.
Right, okay,
Right.
I just wanted to make
But
sure. I was aware of it, but not to the extent until we had come out to here.
Mm-hmm.
And then there I felt there was no difference between that and the XL pipe. I think the danger from it is very similar of the leakage that can occur, particularly as they ramp up in, I think it's just under doubling it, if I'm not mistaken. And that damage that can go into the waterways, there's absolutely no reason we need to be doing that, in my opinion. If you're a believer, as I am, in moving towards climate change, why the heck are we doing this and moving it further south in order to help out on exports and all, when, in my opinion, what we have to be doing is the exact difference, to where we're shutting down subsidies to fossil fuels and move them over to green energy. This is not anything I've just started saying for this race. I mean, I was called the most climate-friendly congressman in Pennsylvania. I called for a moratorium on fracking in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
The only one
Nice.
in Pennsylvania who had done that. In the military, you learn, expect what you inspect. And when you have BP oil in the Gulf of Mexico filling out in pencil the inspection forms and then handing them to the Interior Department, you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so my assessment is on these, that when you have something like this occurring, there's no need for it. It should be going the exact opposite way and beginning to move away from fossil fuels. So that's kind of how I came about it. It's not brain science in me, it's exactly what has to be done. But if I could go further for a moment, I tell everybody that whether it's XL Pipeline, Dakota, or whether you're worried about sacred sites elsewhere of those who are, of those of Native Americans, which we should be treating their sacred places much like we treat a church, a synagogue, or a mosque. It may not be physical, but we shouldn't be opening those areas either to this kind of possible damage. But even if we were to enact the Green New Deal here at home in the next decade, even if we could do that, it won't matter if that's all we do. 85% of all damage from climate change comes from abroad. China will use as much power, electricity, to run its air conditioning in a decade as it exports oil today. 8% of the tropics has air conditioning today. 50% of it will have it by 2050. If we don't enforce the most efficient air conditioning standards, it will be equivalent, they just do the average of today, it will be equivalent to deforesting 2/3 of the Amazon. That's why I feel very strongly that this next president needs to have a breadth and depth of global experience, because it's now one world. Whether it's that catastrophic bomb of climate change that's going to explode on us, or whether it's an authoritarian China that we are dealing with one-on-one instead of convening the world and trying to deal with its injustices and predatory loans, as the Prime Minister of Malaysia has said, we are now having a new power. So I just wanted to point out that what we're doing here is necessary. Like meeting Mr. Trump, it's insufficient if we don't deal with this on a global basis.
Thank you.
That's the last question.